Hey guys, it's Bronwyn here. I just thought I would give you a rough summary slash update of how the tour's gone slash been going. And yeah, so I've got the day off of gigs. I mean, most weekdays probably are. But just came out to Cromwell here for a day trip. I'm just a few minutes out from the town. And yeah, so let's start at the beginning, I guess. That's probably the easiest way. I tried doing this the other day and I left out so much stuff. So let's just start again. About a month and a half ago now, I officially decided in my head that I was going to do this. I'd been talking about it for ages, and I wasn't really sure I was going to go ahead with it. I'm pretty good at chickening out of things if I'm given the opportunity, but I no longer had my health to fall back on as an excuse, and thanks to that I managed to get my driver's license, so everything else was falling into place, and all of a sudden the only excuse was really that I was just too chicken to take the leap. So I took it, and I'm coping so far. So let's just hope that it stays that way. So I started calling some venues, and it was pretty short notice really, but I got the first one that I wanted, because I wanted to base this around the country music clubs as much as possible, since country music is my genre. And yeah, that's an obvious place to, I said target, but an obvious group of people that I would want to meet to try and share my love of music and get my music out there and everything. And the first country music club heading south was Balclutha, and their country music date was the second or third Wednesday of each month. And so when I saw that date, I was like, okay, that's my target, that's when I need to leave for tour. So I called up a few venues that were in that sort of area, and trying to get a gig for the weekend afterwards, and the first one said yes. And even though I probably could have got that one day off work or whatever, I was like, no, that's this is a done deal, I'm going on tour. And I only had one gig locked in, but it's worked out so far. And I mean, there are lots of venues out there that are willing to take you at the last minute. It's just a bit harder to find them because so many others are so booked out, and it can be really exhausting calling a million of them and getting lots of no's because they are booked out, but they are keen to have you, and you're like, I'm gonna be up north by then. But yeah, anyway, so I handed in my notice at work 2 weeks before I left, and I updated my sound equipment and things like that. And it was I did the sound equipment a few days before I handed in my notice at work, and it was only really once I handed in my notice at work that I was just like, holy crap, what have I just done? It hadn't, I still don't think it's truly sunk in, but it definitely hadn't up until that point. It was just like, oh yeah, so I've spent this money, I can still chicken out, I'll just be in more debt than I was before, sort of thing, and then quit the job, and it's like, oh, nope, this is happening. But I mean, it was only a part-time job still, and I've been stuck in part-time jobs for quite a while now, so actually looks like I could be doing better off financially from doing this sort of thing. And I'm couch surfing, so that's saving a lot of money. It's pretty much just petrol and food that I have to worry about, and provided I get 2 gigs a weekend, I'm saving some, and if I can push it up to getting a couple of weekday ones, or just Friday, Saturday, Sunday each week, then that would be great too. Just pay off some more debt faster. And yeah. And so what else happened? I was like so stressed. It was a bit of a disaster really. And I was trying to finish organising the big concert that I was trying to promote as like my last Dunedin one for ages. I had messaged Jenny Mitchell about doing a gig together in Gore, and she was like, oh, I've just moved up here, and this was literally about 2 weeks before I left, and I was like, crap, is there any day between now and then that you're free that we can try and pull together a rough gig? And there was one, and so I was like calling a million venues about that when I should have been like thinking about the tour, and it was a really good gig. The concert, yeah, I mean, people said it was good. I don't know. I felt like I had improved so much, because we did 3 of these big concerts. I felt like I had improved so much for the second one, and then I was sort of hoping to step it up again for the third one, and I felt like I might have taken a bit of a step backwards, which was a shame. But, you know, it happens. Can't win them all. But, yeah, so that big concert, the gig with Jenny was one weekend, the concert was the next weekend, and then the Wednesday after the big concert I was at Balclutha, and I was trying to like pack up all my gear as well as like print off a million chord charts that I could, you know, organise properly when I was on the road, just so that I had those options. You know, I could always go through and fix up mistakes because I just copied them off the web, and that sort of thing, you know, once I was on the road, but it meant I didn't have to worry about a printer or internet and bits and pieces like that. So, and where was I going with that? I don't even remember. I was packing up my room, that's where I was at. And I wanted to leave everything in boxes so that if, you know, Dad was to sell, then he wouldn't have to worry about packing all my stuff up. And, you know, ideally this will become a like permanent full-time thing, so then I don't have to worry about going back and like reorganising it. In the end I just chucked stuff in boxes. I had meant to like label everything and have it all organised so that if I did need to go back and find something it would be really obvious, but that's not going to happen. And yeah, so when I left on the Wednesday I had only packed like half of my stuff up, which was really weird because I'm usually so organised, and for the last like few months to sort of try and talk myself into the fact that I was going to hold myself to going on tour and things like that, I like begun packing stuff up ages ago and did like heaps of trips to the op shop and stuff to get rid of things, and I still was so unorganised it wasn't funny. And yeah, so I ended up having to go back on the Thursday after the country club, which felt like such a false start, and that's what I was trying to avoid by booking a gig in Milton on the Friday. I was because I called them up and they were like, oh, we've just booked someone, and I'd actually been trying to get hold of them for a while, and they just had a really messed up phone system, so they didn't get my messages or something, and I was like, oh, you know, I'll do it for next to nothing, I just really want a gig that day, because I was thinking, you know, I didn't want to go home, but I ended up having to go home anyway. But yeah, no, they let me do it, and they ended up paying me really reasonably too, so I'm curious to know whether that was like their sort of, you know, next to nothing offer, or whether they came through and were like, no, we'll pay you properly. But yeah, anyway, so yep, country club on the Wednesday, went home Thursday morning, went back to Milton on the Friday afternoon for that gig, couch surfed again, and the guy was so nice. He wasn't even home that night, and he was like, oh no, you know, Key's situation is here, da-da-da, just go on in, help yourself, I'll set the airbed up. He left the light on so I didn't have to like awkwardly walk around figuring out which room I was in. And yeah, and then I met him the next day because my gig in Balclutha on the Saturday wasn't until 10 o'clock that night I started, and it was only, what, a 20-minute drive I think, so I left quite late, and so I stayed and had tea with him once he got back from the night before. And yeah, he was really friendly, and he's on the committee of a country club there. So he was like, oh, we should get you to play sometime, and yeah, so that might happen, hopefully, who knows. And then, so the gig in Balclutha, few teething issues, I would say, with the whole backing tracks setup. I hadn't really practiced with them as much as I should have, but I mean, I had a million things going on. That there weren't like any like terrible mistakes, and there was enough like good songs that I was confident with that, you know, hopefully it didn't overshadow, the mistakes didn't overshadow the good parts. But yeah, I mean, it was the first time I had used the backing tracks, so yeah. And I was lucky enough to stay at the venue that night because there was no way I was going to knock on someone's door at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning once the gig had finished and I'd packed up. So that worked out quite well, and then I drove the next day. I was like, oh, I can sleep in, but of course you're meant to check out at 10, and I was going to ask to stay longer, but I felt bad enough because they had already given me a room on top of the amount that we had agreed on, which, I mean, I probably sold myself quite short that first time, especially compared to what some other venues have offered me. I've decided to stop saying this is my rate, and I just say, what would you usually pay a solo artist for this amount of time? And that way, you know, I would prefer to get the gigs over overcharging myself, or, you know, charging myself appropriately maybe, and them not being able to afford it. So unless they like truly rip me off, then I'm probably just gonna go with it. Hopefully no venues are watching this, because then they might take this as their opportunity. But yeah. So yeah, they gave me the room, and so I had to get up at like 9:30 after only getting to sleep at like 4, it might have been in the end, by the time I like packed up and got up to the room and wound down and everything. Yeah, about 4. And I had to drive all the way to Arrowtown, which I was like, oh yeah, I have all day, because the country club there didn't start until like 7:30. But it was so hot, and I was literally pulling over like every 20 minutes. And yeah, I was dying. And then when I got to the guy's place that I was staying with through the couch surfing website, well, first of all, he had a friend there, and I was like, oh yeah, this is nice. And he was on the phone, so his friend introduced himself, and he's actually a really good guitarist who plays for all these bands and artists that I love, and he's done some music producing as well. So I was like, oh, holy crap, this sounds promising. And he was like, oh yeah, no, we should like get together and you can come into my studio and all sorts. And I was like, holy crap. And so he took off because he, you know, had bits and pieces to do. But I found him on Facebook, and we organised to have a jam session the next night, and he knows my songs better than I know them, or like know what to do with them. Like, he has all these ideas, and I'm just like, why didn't I think of that? That's like perfect. It's so crazy. And oh, he also managed to get me a gig, because this weekend just been the second weekend and I didn't have anything. I had the 2 gigs booked the weekend before, and I had stuff booked the following weekends, but I had absolutely nothing booked for this last weekend. So I was like, you don't know anyone that isn't, you know, fully booked or anything, do you? And so he was going to give me someone's number, and then he was like, oh no, I'll just call them for you. And so we managed to pull it together, and it was crazy. And thank goodness we did, because, you know, I mean, I was pretty comfortable with, you know, money and not spending and everything, but, you know, you can never not be too safe. And yeah, I'm rambling a lot, I'm sorry. And yep, so after he took off that day, I went to bed because I was absolutely exhausted, and I was like, yep, I'll just go to bed for a couple of hours, I'll get up in time for the country music club. And I woke up, my alarm went off, but I was so shattered. I was like, I don't think I can go. And when I had called them a few weeks before to like sound them out about, you know, turning up and double checking that the date was right and everything, they said, oh, we've already got a guest artist for that month. So I was like, oh yeah, I don't mind doing 2 songs, but given how I was feeling, I was like this close to not turning up. And then I turned up, and one lady on the desk was like, oh, are you the guest artist? And I was like, no, because I knew that there was another lady, and it turns out that they hid me down to be a guest artist, which was so cool. And they were like, oh, you know, do about 20 minutes, and I was like, crap, I only like planned for 2 songs. So I just like, and I left all my sheet music in the car, so I was just like, shit, what songs do I remember off the top of my head? But no, it was good. Felt a bit rough for the first couple of songs because I was just so shattered from the night before, but I think they understood that. And yeah, no one seems to know what an EP is, so I'm gonna have to start saying like a small album or something, because they were like, what's an EP? Is that a CD or is it like digital? Or yeah, so there's that. And what else? So I got back from the country club, crashed for the night. The next day I slept in a bit and just got heaps of like paperwork and bits and pieces done. And yeah, so it was the Monday. The Sunday night was the country club. Monday night was when this guitarist came over, and we were mucking around with my songs and talking about, you know, what sort of sound I want, and, you know, past recordings and what I've done and everything. And I mean, I knew when I met him the first day, to be honest, that I was like, yeah, this sounds like perfect. And then after that I was just like, shit, I have found my producer. I wasn't even looking. You know, I've been talking about wanting to do some more recording, preferably sooner rather than later, because I'm really impatient, as this tour kind of proves. But I, you know, when, where, who, I wouldn't have had a clue. And he, not only can he like do the recording, and he has all the software and bits and pieces, so we don't have to hire out a studio, but he can play, you know, really good guitar. He can do the rhythm guitar, because I'm really bad at doing proper recording so rhythm guitar. I sound fine when I'm doing it live, and then you like put the click track on and the pressure, and I'm just like, oh. And he can do bass, and then he has all these other contacts of people that he'll get to do like drums and bits and pieces, so it's actually going to work out really, really well. And yeah, and so we still didn't quite get to his studio, but given, you know, the lack of gigs and bits and pieces during the week, I was like, oh, it's all good, you know, I'm going through to Wanaka, but I can always come back if, you know, another day suited you best. And so I went, yeah, through to Wanaka, and stayed with Dad and his partner Sue. They were just staying at a friend's holiday house, so I just crashed with them for a few nights. Since they were there, saves me leaning on other people. Not that other people seem to mind, but, you know, when you're in the same sort of area for almost 2 weeks, you like kind of want to spread the hassle of being around over a few people instead of just one person for like 2 weeks. So yeah, I went and stayed with them for a bit, and it was only going to be a couple of nights, but I ended up staying with them almost the whole time they were there, because they had some exciting news and stuff. So, and also, you know, I'm not planning on going back there for quite a while, so as much as it also felt like a false start, it was kind of like, yeah, just enjoy the moment. Hopefully they saw it that way too. Yeah, and then so I went back to Queenstown on the Thursday, did some recording. Oh, excuse me. Haven't heard the final track yet, but from what I heard on the day, I was like, yeah, just, you know, reconfirming the fact that this couldn't have worked out more perfectly if I had tried. and went back to Wanaka that same day. Lots and lots of paperwork and fun stuff like that, making posters. On one hand, I feel like I should just keep using the same picture and just change all the like writing on it, but then I feel like people are just going to think that it's like the same poster and not actually going to read the information on it. So I've been like going back through all my photo shoots from the last few years and being like, what photos don't look completely terrible, and trying to come up with new ideas for posters, but failing quite miserably. So I might have to see if I can find a photographer that'll just collaborate, so that, you know, I don't have to fork out a massive amount of money, but yeah, can still get some new photos, and then, you know, they'll be able to say, oh, I've done this, and I'll say, yeah, I worked with this person, and things like that. So I don't know who or if or when I can squeeze that in, but hopefully I can figure something out. And then what else? Oh, my last minute gig that came together, that was Saturday night, this past Saturday night, and so that was in Arrowtown, and there was some really lovely people there. I wish I had like got more of a chance to talk to them and stuff, and I mean, I know that they were just like enjoying the music on the day, but like I would really have loved to have kept in touch with some of them. One guy was just like raving about my performance, and more than my performance, like the way that I was talking in between songs and stuff. And it's crazy because those of you that came to like my really early gigs know that I literally just was like, this song is called this, sing. This song is called that, sing. And like I didn't have any sort of character coming through at all. And then just over the last like 6 months or so, it's just all coming out. And I'm finding that when I write too, because I said to my sister one day, I was like, all my lyrics are sounding really sassy, and I don't know where it's coming from, because I'm normally such a shy, like keep to myself sort of person. And I was expecting her to be like, back off, that's sort of my, you know, personality trait. And she was like, it's about time. And I was just like, like gosh, all these years of suppressed feelings, and all of a sudden it's just exploding. But no, so yeah, Saturday night was really good. I was running a bit late, but that was really their fault, because they were like, oh yeah, set up in the corner, and so I moved all my gear over there. Hadn't quite started setting up yet because there was a big TV there and the rugby was on, and then they were like, oh, actually we're going to move you. And so by the time we moved all the gear, even though they helped a bit, like I was probably about 10 minutes late, and I kind of feel like I shouldn't have accepted the full price rate because of that, but it was kind of their fault. So trying not to feel too bad about that. And also when I did the big gig at that same sort of time in Balclutha, they had bouncers, and I'm all for people getting up and singing for like half a verse or something, no matter how bad they are. But there was a group of people who were, you know, super enthusiastic and all, and they were really nice, but they were also incredibly drunk. And so the last like half an hour or so of the gig was really painful. There was one guy who came so close, and like they all kept knocking the mic stand and everything, and one guy knocked my speaker over, the speaker stand, and he like just caught it. And like if it hadn't been locked on properly, or if, you know, he hadn't caught it, like that would have been a lot of equipment potentially down the drain. So yeah, the staff were oblivious, and I probably should have stopped and like said something, but I just kept on going as I do. I'm really bad at, you know, confrontation, so not me. But yeah, if that happens again, like I think where they usually set artists up sounds like a good idea, because then, you know, it's not a stage, but you are a bit more out of the way. Whereas yes, they were trying to bring me closer to a big group of people that were there, but at the same time, you know, you do need a bit of space. And they had me cramped in so much that my guitar kept feeding back because of where the speakers were and everything, and yeah, it was just all a bit iffy really, but no, great people that were there. It wasn't all bad, and yeah, I felt like I performed quite well and everything, so for the most part it was pretty good. Yeah, and it was a gig because yeah, I didn't have anything lined up for that weekend at all, which was pretty terrible. Yeah, and yeah, so that was sad day. I slept in the car that night. That was interesting. I mean, I was so naked, like I was out to it, but yeah, no, it was good. I don't quite know how I managed to fit in there because I have an awful lot of gear in there, as you'll see, because I just shot a wee sort of this is my home type video, and yeah, so I just had to move everything into the front seat and literally only just managed to fit in the back seat and lie down, but no, it was good, and I don't mind doing that occasionally because I hate, you know, crashing with people and feeling like I'm a burden. So any time that I, you know, need to sleep in the car to save a bit of money or stop hassling someone, I don't really mind, just as long as I find a safe enough spot to park it. That's all that really matters, and make sure it's locked. And yeah, yesterday, Sunday, I just like caught up on sleep, as you can probably imagine, finishing at 1:30 and then, you know, packed down and everything, yeah, and then yesterday was Monday, today's Tuesday. I did some more paperwork, just organising stuff, so much stuff, you know, bookings and posters and making sure everyone has the right links and stuff. And then, oh yeah, like marketing, I've been so slack at that because I've been too busy focusing on like having the music all sorted and things like that, so I hadn't emailed or like contacted, you know, local newspapers or anything like that, because yeah, I was too busy trying to organise the gigs and stuff. So now that I am, you know, reasonably confident with the songs and the backing tracks and have some gigs lined up and stuff, like I can start actually thinking about that side of things too. So I did lots of those sort of emails yesterday, and yeah, and then today I just discovered that I made my first like date muck-up. I thought the Cromwell Country Music Club was this Saturday, but it's this Sunday, and I have a gig booked this Sunday at like the exact same time, and it's a 2-hour drive between the two places, so I can't even like ask the venue to push it back a couple of hours because I wouldn't be able to stay there at all, which really sucks because they sounded really friendly and really supportive of local and original music, so I would have really liked to have met them, but it's not to be. They invited me back next month, but of course I'll be further up north, so it'll be a bit too far out of the way, which really sucks, but these things happen. So yeah, I just needed to like get away from all the paperwork and, you know, get away for a bit, so yeah, just came for a bit of a drive and just about to do some music practice, and yeah, just filmed these videos so that I don't feel like I'm not doing any work at all. You know, I'm doing the easy parts of the work, but I'm doing work. Yeah, and the intention anyway is to start actually vlogging as I go, whether that be like on the day telling you about what I've done, or like actually at the gigs and being like, look at my setup, da da da, or like recording bits and pieces. So hopefully now that I'm getting the hang of things and like what happens and how and everything, and getting into good practices, I can actually feel like I'm not so stressed that I can video at the time and things like that. So getting lots of itchy bites. Anyway, it's probably a good place to end. I don't even want to think about out how long that was, but yes, 2 weeks in, so there is quite a bit to cover, but no, it's been good. And yeah, so this weekend I'm at the Gin and Raspberry at Wanaka on the Saturday night, and then Lumsden Hotel Sunday afternoon, and then there's some country music clubs in Invercargill and Galway Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I've only spoken to 2 of them, so not 100% sure on the other one, but there's that. And then the following weekend I have a gig back in Wanaka on the Friday, which I probably shouldn't have really accepted, because now that it was one of the first ones that I spoke to and booked, and I was like, oh, I don't really want to have to go back, but I was like, oh, that's fine. But it turns out that compared to the majority of venues, he's actually ripping me off, and I let him. And yeah, he's paying me almost half what most of them are. So on one hand, I'm like, probably shouldn't. I almost tempted to like go back to him and say something, but I won't. But now that I do have a clearer idea of, you know, what I should be charging, if someone was to bring that up again, then I would actually say something, now that I have, you know, venues that have paid me a higher rate and stuff. But at the same time, you know, I just want gigs as well, so, you know, just got to keep getting my name out there and things like that. And just remember, as my friend always says, he's like, what are you talking about, exposure? Don't worry about that, just worry about the fact that you're doing what you love. And yeah, okay, I'm never gonna get a big head as long as he's around. But yeah, anyway, I will stop rambling finally. I think that's everything, I hope. If I've forgotten anything, then sure, I'll catch you up on it later. But yeah, no, good to catch up, and wish me luck for the rest of the tour. Cool, see ya.